in his soul, no melody in his mouth, no hymn in his heart. I feel like that's where some of you are at. I said, I feel like we got some Asaphs in the house tonight. And sure, you used to come to church and get in. You used to have a song on your lips. You used to carry a tune. But now it's silence. You have become a spiritual mute. If I may say it this way, you have become spiritually dumb. And then somewhere along the line, tragedy and lethargy has crippled your spirit, and you lost the joy that you once had. There's a missing note in your life. The celebration has stopped, and the glory has faded. I'm here to tell somebody it can't be yours again. It can't be returned. Your melody can be restored. And my friend, you don't have to do anything else but just hold on. Because if you'll hold on, you can have a song. I said you can take back what the devil has stolen from you. William Cooper, he was an English poet and hymn writer in the 18th century, but he often struggled with depression. He doubted that God could ever really care about him. Late one night, the year 1776, he was so overwhelmed with sorrow that he decided to commit suicide. He walked out of his house into the darkness of the night. He waited at the edge of the cobblestone street looking for a lit lantern of a horse-drawn London cab. And then suddenly he saw in the distance a hazy light slowly enlarging as it drew closer to where he was. He whispered to himself bitterly, God, you spoke no peace to calm my troubles. You provided no solace, yet here you provide the cab that'll take me to my death. As that cabbie stopped to pick him up, he said, where to, sir? Mr. Cooper said, take me to the Thames River. I want to go to London Bridge. That cabbie said, it's a cold night. What business do you have at the bridge at this hour? But Mr. Cooper could not open his mouth. They said a silence filled the air. As that cabbie took off for the well-known destination, a fog quickly began to set in. That fog became thicker and thicker. It got so heavy and so dense that the cabbie couldn't even see his horse's nose. What should have been a 20-minute ride lasted an hour, and still there was no sign of the river or the bridge. That cabbie peered into the fog, desperately looking for some familiar landmark, when suddenly the fog was lifted. The passenger looked up and saw to his amazement his own home had been lost in the fog. They had ironically circled back, and somehow it ended up at the very place where they began their journey. Mr. Cooper cried out, my God, you have answered me. They said, climb out of town. He walked into his house. He began to meditate on Psalm 77, our text tonight. He was so moved by what he read and the events that transpired that evening that he wrote these words, which have been sung for over 200 years. He said, God moves in a mysterious way, His wonders to perform. He plants His footsteps on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep and unfathomable minds of never failing skill, He treasures up His bright designs and works His sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds ye so much dread are big with mercy and shall bring, and blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust Him for His grace. Behind the frowning providence, He hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. And the blind unbelief is sure to err and scan His work in vain. But God is His own interpreter, and He will make it plain. And I want to tell somebody tonight, you may not recognize it right now, but God is moving behind the scenes. You a spoken promise or whisper your name in the night to give you a sense of reassurance, but He is working all the while. His words. I said, just like Mr. Cooper, we need to see His works more than we need to hear His words. And you know why? Because in the moment of our deepest distress, at the climax of our worst trial, we need God to step ahead in the process of divine deliverance. And we need Him to lead us over to the other side of our situation before He ever tells us how He's going to do it. We need to have the finished product before we're ever given the blueprints. I said we need God to be productive more than we need Him to be instructive. And as William Cooper said, when He's finally done, when it's all over, God will be His own interpreter, and He's going to make it plain. It's going to be loud and clear. I said He's going to spell it out, and then He's going to bring you out, and His purpose will be revealed in your life. Can you say that? I want you to look with me for a few minutes at this text. Verse 2 reads, in the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My sword reigned in the night and ceased not. My soul refused to be comforted. Think with me first of all of the misery that was relentless. The misery that was relentless. Most commentators believe this is a companion song with chapter 74, which deals with the destruction of Jerusalem and the captivity of Israel. Both chapters deal with the Lord's apparent rejection of His people, and both look for a renewed hope. From both passages, we find the same complaint. Asaph asked the question, will the Lord cast off forever? You see, when Jerusalem fell, many Jews were slain, and many were taken captive to Babylon. And it's been said that Asaph may have been in Jeremiah's circle and was left behind to minister to the suffering remnant. And then just picture that. This psalmist was trying to encourage the Jewish people, wasn't he? He was trying to rebuild their confidence, trying to lift up their spirits, trying to ease their troubled minds. But yet when he leaves them and he lays his head down on his pillow, he finds himself just as dejected and just as miserable as everybody else. He said in the beginning of verse 2, my sword reigned in the night, which is translated to mean my hands were outstretched all night. And here this man was, he was trying to minister to others, when in all reality, he was the one that needed to be ministered to. He was trying to give answers, but he couldn't get any answers for himself. And can you relate to him? You ever felt like he did, where you tried to help others pick up the broken pieces in their life, when really you feel just as busted and shattered inside as they do. You give them a shoulder to lean on, but you can barely stand on your own 2 feet. You try to wipe the tears from their face, but you feel like crying at the same time. I said you do the preaching, and sometimes you're the one that needs the sermon. Anybody know what I'm talking about? As Asaph, you're saying, thou holdest mine eyes waking. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. It's just one restless night after another. Amen. Come on now. You put on a facade. You wear a smile around everybody. You act like everything's all right. But you go home, and even in the privacy and the solitude of your own residence, you cannot find relief. It's choked out your song. It's taken the words right out of your mouth. I said you're sleepless and you're speechless. Like the psalmist, what you're dealing with has become more than just a sword. And you wonder if things will ever change. You wonder if it's always going to be this way. And well, I've come to tell you, friend, whatever went wrong